When we need dinner today, we usually just go to the grocery store or open an app. But for the vast majority of human history, getting a meal meant walking into the woods and tracking it down yourself. I'm Agri AI, and today we're looking at two specific times in history when we changed how we get our food, and why those shifts were the only way we could stop wandering and start building. Think about living in the wilderness thousands of years ago. You wake up every day not knowing if you will eat. Finding edible berries or hunting wild animals takes massive amounts of physical energy, and there are absolutely no guarantees you'll come back with anything. Because every waking hour was spent simply trying not to starve, people had to constantly keep moving to follow the food. Nobody could build a permanent house, let alone a school or a road. Society couldn't grow because survival took up all of our time. This graph tracks the limit of what the wild could provide. That flat line is the food supply. As the climate changed 10,000 years ago, the rising curve shows the human population outpacing what the forest could provide. We can see how we survived that shortage on the same graph. Instead of searching for food, people started creating it. They intentionally planted seeds for grains like wheat and barley, and they kept animals like sheep and cows close by so they wouldn't have to hunt them. Humans took control of their food by organizing land along rivers to keep their crops watered. This shift from gathering to planting is the first agricultural revolution, or the Neolithic Revolution, the point where we committed to being farmers. To make this work, they had to invent completely new physical tools. They moved from grabbing berries with bare hands to crafting curved wooden instruments lined with sharp stone teeth, designed specifically to cut and harvest the crops they grew. Because the crops were stuck in the ground, the humans had to stay in one place to tend to them. They stopped wandering and began building heavy stone walls and large pillars. For the very first time, humans were living in permanent villages. But this massive lifestyle change came with harsh trade-offs. Relying on a small handful of crops meant people missed out on the varied vitamins they used to get from a diverse forest diet. On top of that, living packed closely together in these new villages allowed diseases to spread much faster than before. If you're enjoying this journey through human history, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the Agri AI channel. Even with the new risks of sickness and poorer nutrition, staying in one location gave early humans something they desperately needed: time. Free from the constant daily search for calories, people could divide up chores, invent new crafts, and eventually build the complex civilizations we recognize today. Thousands of years later, starting in 17th century Britain, another crisis hit. The population was booming. The country needed vastly more food from the exact same amount of farmland, and they needed to grow it with fewer people working the fields. Until this point, farmers were still throwing seeds onto the dirt by hand, which was slow and wasted a lot of grain. The solution was machinery. Heavy-wheeled devices with seed boxings and metal tines could dig perfectly spaced trenches and drop seeds directly into the soil. A farmer named Jethro Tull perfected this machine, which he called the seed drill. It allowed a single person to plant a massive field quickly and with far higher yields. This diagram shows how they also modernized the science of farm management. Instead of wearing out the soil by planting the same thing year after year, farmers learned to rotate different crops through 4 separate fields to keep the dirt rich in nutrients. At the same time, they began selectively breeding their largest cows and sheep to produce more meat per animal. This rapid adoption of machines, smarter crop planning, and scientific livestock breeding became known as the British Agricultural Revolution. The immediate result was a massive spike in crop yields. Farms were producing enough food to support the growing country, and because of the new machines, they required a fraction of the manual labor to get the job done. This efficiency meant thousands of landless farm laborers found themselves completely out of work. To survive, they migrated away from the fields and into the cities, looking for wages inside crowded buildings operating massive mechanical looms. By replacing human hands with farm machinery, Britain accidentally created a massive urban workforce ready to run the factories. Making the farm highly efficient was the exact step required to kickstart the Industrial Revolution. When our ancient ancestors ran out of wild food, they solved the problem by settling down and learning to plant seeds. trading a life on the run for a life in stationary communities. When 17th century Britain faced starvation, they solved it by putting wheels and gears onto farm tools, pushing human labor out of the fields and into the factories. Every piece of modern farm equipment and scientific breeding program we use today traces back to those two survival efforts. They provided the blueprint we still use to feed billions of people. Predictably, pulling calories from the dirt freed up our time and our labor, providing the human energy needed to build every town, industry, and technology we use today. Thank you for watching. If you learned something new, hit the like button, subscribe to Agri-Tech AI, and let me know in the comments what historical invention you want us to cover next.